New Year's Eve, 2010, my wife and I were home, and I said, honey, do you hear something? I went over to the window, and I opened up the window. And this is what I heard. It's not very loud, but it was pretty loud when I did it before. And, at this point, some of you may have gone into a stupor. Some of you may have panicked, but my wife and I, we went downstairs, we went to the basement because, when you hear a tornado warning, they won't turn off. There's always technical difficulties. When you hear a tornado warning, you're supposed to go to the basement. So that's where we went. We didn't certainly want to be affected by the tornado. So we went down there, we had a TV, we turned the TV on, and this is sort of what we saw. We saw something very similar to what we see. It seems like almost every month. There's a big sort of red line coming to St. Louis. And even though there was a tornado watch, nobody said that there was actually a tornado on the ground. And so we were pretty confident that we were okay because the line of red said there's severe thunderstorms. We saw purple down below us, so we said, well, that's where the severe storms are going to be. We don't really need to worry about tornadoes, just some bad thunderstorms. So these line of thunderstorms, they go through St. Louis, and we sort of wait, and 20, 30 minutes later, and we come upstairs, and we're looking around. Is everything okay? Are the trees down? Is everything is fine? We couldn't believe it. So about 10 minutes later, we started getting phone calls. Hey Tom, are you guys okay? Man, we heard there's a terrific tornado by you. I said, what? You're kidding me, right? You're kidding. Come on now. And I said, no, they're really, turn on the TV. So we turned on the TV, and this is what we see. This is Sunset Hills. Sunset Hills, 600 yards away from my house, they got wiped out. Part of Sunset Hills got hit by this EF3 tornado, and it was really bad. The houses were torn down. Lindbergh Boulevard was a mess. Telephone poles were broken in two. I mean, I can't even imagine that, but they were broken in two. Cars were overturned. I mean, it was just horrific. And in fact, if you look at this particular graphic, you'll see there wasn't just one tornado. There were 12 different tornadoes during this one period of time. 12 tornadoes. So I'm starting to get a little bit nervous. I'm starting to think, boy, this is not good. And so this is actually a little YouTube video. The video is obviously not too good, but it shows some of the devastation. And this particular house here, the only thing left in this house is the basement. And the reason this is interesting to me because the guy's name is Tony Taminia. He and his brother and his wife were in this house with their child. And they were in the middle of the basement, and the only way they survived was they went under the stairwell and they huddled together. And it was really tight. But somehow they actually managed to survive this. And basically he said in his statement that if they had been in the middle of the basement when this tornado hit, they would all be dead. That gets your attention. In fact, if you look at this particular graphic here, I'm going to have to turn around to do this. This is the path of the tornado. It wasn't down all of this time, but this was the general path of the tornado. And if you look at this little gold star up here, that's my house. That's how close this tornado came to my house. If it had been down and come just a little bit more to the right, my house could have been wiped out. I could have been in big trouble. So that gets your attention. May 22nd, Joplin, Missouri. You all know what happened in Joplin. This was an EF3. Joplin was an EF5. 159 people were killed in Joplin. Over 1,000 people were injured. It was terrible. Well, by this time, you know what? I'm a little bit slow, but I'm learning. I think, maybe I ought to do something. Maybe I ought to take care of myself, take care of my family, and do something to be better prepared for tornadoes other than just going down to the basement and sitting on the couch. So I put together what I call the Tornado Preparation ABCs. If you can remember ABCs, you can remember these different plans. Here's what they stand for. A is alert, B is basement, C is cover yourself, S stands for stuff and supplies, and S stands for safe room. So let's talk about these things. Number one, you need to be alert. You need to pay attention to the weather. You need to know what's going on. That could be watching TV, that could be listening to the radio, that could be looking on your smartphone, getting weather alerts, but you just have to be aware that things are not always going to be nice. You know, back in the 50s and 60s, it seems like everything was beautiful. We didn't have all of this traumatic weather that we're having now, but almost every year we have some really nasty weather coming through. So you got to be alert to the weather. Also be alert to the sirens. The sirens are meant to be used for outside activities. If you're outside, you should be able to hear the sirens. Unfortunately, if you're inside, there's a good chance you're not going to be able to hear that siren. And so the best option after that is a weather radio. And these are anywhere from the $30 to $40 range. In fact, I actually have 2 weather radios in my house. I've got one upstairs for when I'm sleeping, and I got one downstairs for when I'm watching TV. And it's very loud, a lot louder than that siren is supposed to be, but it's loud enough it'll knock your socks off. It'll, you know, even if you've got headphones on, you'll hear this siren. And the deal is you need to pay an extra $10 to get the upgraded model. And the reason is you don't want to be alerted to all the different alerts. There's maybe 100 different alerts. And with a programmable weather radio, you can change what alerts you're interested in. I'm not interested in flood alerts because I'm on high ground. You know, maybe if you're in a low area, you might be interested in that. The B stands for going to the basements. You know, any place other than on the first and second floor is safer than, you know, the basement is safer than those sort of situations. You know, luckily, most people in St. Louis have got a basement. Joplin, a lot of people didn't have basements. That's why they had so many people get killed. So a basement is better than nothing at all. Even better than that is getting under cover in your basement. And if you got a basement, you got a stairwell someplace. And so this is actually my stairwell. And of course, at the time I started this project, it was filled with junk. And so I had to get rid of all that junk and clean it out. And you notice, at least on my stairwell, I've got some 2x4s lined up there. And that's just how the house was built. And so that, and it's got drywall, which is not going to stop too much, but the 2x4s will help. So that's better than nothing at all. The S stands for stuff. You know, this is sort of your last minute stuff. You know, if you know there's a really bad tornado coming or there's a bad storm coming, you need to gather your stuff. And most people, one of the things they may not think about are shoes. You know, if you have a tornado, you're going to have broken glass all around. So you need shoes, you need clothing, you need your wallet and keys and your phone. And you know, since I'm a computer guy, I have my computer and my backup, so all of that's there in case, in a worst case scenario, at least I can still stay connected to the world. The S also stands for supplies. The main one is water. You need 1 gallon of water for every day, for every adult. 1 gallon per adult per day. And they say in emergency situations, you need to have at least 3 days of supplies. So the other thing is food, obviously, but there are actually 74 different items that I counted on my list. And if you look up here, again on here, I've actually got this little web link that you can click on, and it's actually got all those 74 different items. And that's not something I just sort of made up out of my own mind. That's something I borrowed from all the different emergency websites. There's a lot of good information out there. In fact, on this particular page, there's a lot of links and a lot of more information than I can do in just 9 minutes. So 74 different things. And then finally, the S stands for safe room. Again, you know what, if you've got the money, in fact, this safe room cost me about $500. I actually hired somebody to do it. And so all I did was I enclosed those 2x4s with some 3/4 inch plywood, had it screwed in. And so I actually had more protection from flying debris. And finally, I actually put a solid core door on there. And so again, it's going to be pretty hard for something to actually hit me. Not impossible, but pretty hard. So I'm a little safer. The other nice thing about this door, the way I said it, is the door opens in so that, you know, you don't have to worry about stuff on the outside blocking your way out. You don't want to be trapped in that safe room. So let's summarize. And, man, I don't think it's working now. There's the siren. When you hear the siren, I want you to remember your ABCs. And if you do that, you'll be safe, secure, and you'll say, you know what, that Tom really had some terrific ideas. Mr. Toastmaster.